from others' mistake. I'd like to share with you a few of these learnings. During the course of strategy implementation, we were faced with few hurdles. We didn't have a coherent existing strategy at the time. We didn't have lack of clarity. So the whats and whys and whens and hows and by whoms weren't really clear for us, or at least it meant different things for different people. We also were suffering an absence, or let me say a lack of measurement culture, and we didn't have this standardized methodology. By using the balanced scorecard, we found tools that helped us to overcome each and every one of these hurdles. When we didn't have a concise, clear strategy, we used the strategy map, and that helped us greatly in describing our strategy. Strategy narrative, among with other modes of communication, helped us to have a high clarity. Now, I must emphasize that the strategy narrative was not the only way, but I'm just giving an example. The flash film we saw in the beginning is another example. We also are planning to hold a town hall meeting, group discussions. We use it in our internal quarterly newsletter with our intranet in ARASCO. So we plan to do, or we are actually doing the 7 times 7 different ways, but it's the content there that I was emphasizing on. The measurement culture, implementing and installing the balanced scorecard now helps us to transform this and moving away into a more of a performance culture. And standardizing a methodology using the balanced scorecard dictionary, where you have actually the measure owner, the objective owner, the formula of the measure itself, a description on the measure, what kind of initiative are supporting to close this. So that gave us an opportunity to standardize the whole methodology. A few other learnings we had were while we were standing on our feet, during the actual implementation itself. And let me start by having soft targets. We noticed that many of our team members would come forward with soft targets. And we attribute this, that we say this might be due to that measurement culture is new to us. So we consciously had to encourage, help, and support our team members to come up with more aggressive yet achievable targets. Another one was we were faced with way too many initiatives, and I attribute this to 2 reasons. One, anything can be called an initiative, so we reached the point where the initiative was the buzzword in the organization. If you want to get anything approved, just call it an initiative. That was one, and that made us that we had to do an awful work of education in helping people understand that an initiative is to be treated more like a project, something that has a start time, end time, allocated resources, owner, and a clear deliverable. Therefore, we were highly selective in choosing only the initiatives that has the highest impact on the organization. Ownership, I think I've touched upon this, but again, I would say that it was very important in our journey, while cascading from SBU to department, that we had to make sure that these PC measures are cascaded to the right people. These had to land to the most appropriate hands. And not having insufficient information, we knew from the beginning that we would use the manual system. And we had to put up with additional works, and we had to sacrifice sometimes accuracy or the timely availability of the information. Now, we've read books and we've attended lectures, so there were few things that we had actually avoid by plan. So one was the premature linkages of PSC pay. Link pay, let me say, or linking the balanced scorecard to incentives. We had to give ourselves a trial run. We had to get used to it. We had to allow our employees to get used to the system more, allowing ourselves to make few mistakes and learn from them. Later on, we've made our communication, and the clock started ticking. Second, we avoided the big bang approach. We didn't do it all at once, but what we've decided that we will do it on phases. So we phased the whole thing in. We started with the SBU level. We've cascaded that to the department. We made sure that we have the clear linkages with the corporate. And for us, our next step is introducing the personal scorecards. And the premature BEC automation is, as I explained a moment earlier, that we've decided to start with the manual system. We used the Excel and the PowerPoints, and we were okay to take some of the chaos, and we wanted to allow ourselves making a few mistakes, and then instead of automating a mess, we would automate something that we know how to actually use. From our experience in translating strategy, and more specifically the balanced scorecard, we have learned few things. And I would like to share with you and to those whom would like to take this journey in the future, some of our learnings. I will begin with people. Instill the review and measurement culture with your people. If you have skill gaps, identify them, highlight them, expose them, handle them with training, provide people the training that they need, the effective training they need, and do not settle for briefing sessions. Briefing sessions are not enough. Remember that people are the most important asset. It lies in their hand, the success and the failure of this presentation. Second, processes. Make sure that your existing processes are BSC ready. Introduce sales forecasting and reforecasting. Introduce key account management. Introduce the SNOPs, cash-to-cash management cycles. If they are already there, then good. Just make sure that they're up to the level. And finally, we noticed that many organizations club strategy meetings with operational meetings. Now avoid this at all costs. Mixing strategy with the very important and essential operational day-to-day work just leads to strategy losing its significance. Now remember, we want complete focus on strategy if we are discussing strategy. This is important. And finally, instill and keep having these periodic review meetings. Keep having them. Eventually, they will create a culture that it will sustain itself. And so far, I've been talking about our ARASCO's and ARASCO's core products journey, but now let me highlight a little bit on our future. Sustaining and developing on the work that has been done. We expect to have a healthy growth clip from now up to 2016. This is supported by a plant expansion in the year 2013. We plan to do a plant expansion to our unit in Al-Kharj, and that would first double and then later on triple our production capacity to meet the ever-increasing market demand. Quick look at our future strategy. We see that we primarily focus on product development and market development. Currently, we hold this dominant market position. We will strive to maintain the same, but we will also be providing value-added services, moving ARASCO core products to a solution provider. And over time, we will be working on identifying and developing new products that will be suited to the market demand. And finally, we plan to outreach for new markets. Now, markets that we think have the potential and it is attractive for us. And mainly, we will be looking out North Africa. With increased opportunities come increased challenges. And we think that the employee individual challenges and the company level challenges are key factor that we have to manage in order to become successful. Now, at the employee level, and employee individuals, we plan to continue recognizing our employees' contributions by linking their incentive and performance appraisal to the balanced scorecard. We also plan to continue linking our SBU balanced scorecard to our customers and our suppliers and to all other stakeholders, and making sure that our scorecard and ARASCO products is in sync with ARASCO. Our growth strategy will be powered by a continuous improvement on strategic and operational management systems. Now, to summarize, balanced scorecard implementation was a tremendous help for us during our transformation process. As of 2012, we have a pillar that is green and decentralization, and we still have some more work to do on the two other pillars. We expect that once we roll out the personal balanced scorecard, once we automate our balanced scorecard system, we will have a state-of-art critical management system that will help us to move toe-to-toe with the best-run organizations in the world. I think it's an exciting journey, and we are proud to be part of it. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been a great audience. Thank you very much.
Right, that's a great case study to start the afternoon off. We'll do the usual question session. We have a little bit of time for that. And just while we're passing the mic around, could I ask you one? Because
sure.
Communication has been a theme throughout these few days. And you showed the video, which was fascinating, and you mentioned it was an excerpt from a longer 12-minute tape, I think.
Right.
Within ARASCO, your 2,000 people or so, how many people will have seen that video from the chief executive?
I would say everyone with a computer, because it was communicated by our intranet, our ARASCO.
Yeah.
So I would say over minimum 700 to give exact figure, but anyone with a computer would have seen that.
Everyone gets the same message. So the horse versus the zebra that was talked about this morning is overcome.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
While using the, if you allow me just to put more over on this, while using the 7 different ways, 7 different times, I think it was important to have one consistent message all the time. And we were afraid that if the chief would communicate to a certain number of people and those people would moreover cascade it further down, we would have the horse turning to a zebra.
Sure. Okay, I think question there, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. My question, I met one of your associates, and I know that you rely on imports for your products and for your service. Did you include this in the strategy? What if, God forbid, something happened in the import and you don't have this? What measures have you taken? And I've seen that you put the graph where you extrapolate, and we know that they told us that not to put ambitious, because sometimes competition comes in place or risk like imports happen, something happen in the future that you have to. How you
mean risk at the port side?
At the port or from the point of origin where you get your products from. Or,
okay.
So what's alternative, or if competition becomes so severe or so much?
Yeah, that's a great question. Now, during your pistol and SWOT analysis, these studies can be so energy and time consuming. So I will not spend so much time thinking what would happen if a war would happen at the Gulf area, God forbid. But I would have a backup and plan P that if I couldn't use King Abdulaziz port, for example, at Dammam, I will be moving quickly to Jeddah port, Islamic port. That would be something under my control. That would be something that I'm able to work on. So, but this theme was all over ARASCO, for example, that once we segregate things that are under our control and things that are not under our control, we make the clear segregation. It amazes all of us how much that we can do, and it is within our hands. We didn't spend much time, if something happened at South America. But we try to give ourselves alternatives. And using the 4 or 5 forces, I think we're in a pretty good position. But always, I mean, we're in a pretty good position, but we're not resting. We're moving because people are catching up.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, hi. Thank you, firstly, for an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
I have 2 questions. One, firstly, about the strategy in developing. You said that the strategy was initially it wasn't very clear, and you went through a process and you developed a strategy map. And I was wondering if you might be able to expand on that in terms of what that involved, how difficult it was, who you involved, etc. The second question is on the strategy execution part.
Can I answer the first question and then you ask me the second, because I have a terrible bad memory. Before, at 2005, ARASCO was a single entity. So strategies were not clear. We didn't know exactly where are we going. Or at least different people had different thoughts and different opinions. So we weren't on the same page. The top management, the chief executive and his senior team had to take the leading role. Now we knew from the outset, we knew from day one that without their engagement, support, we weren't going to be going far away. So this started with them. The ownership started with the top executive team in order to formulate and develop this strategy, and then communicate it to all stakeholders. The result of that we came up with 6 multiple strategic business units. So each one of these had to develop their own business strategy, and then the corporate at the end had to develop its own. Did that answer your question, or?
Yeah, I think that's okay.
All
Thanks.
right.
The second question was around strategy execution.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier today, Jerome was talking about the difficulties, or the 2 particular areas with difficulties around communication and initiative management.
Yes.
You mentioned just before we started the Q&A about the communication element. I was wondering if you could talk about your experiences in terms of the initiative management.
Absolutely. One of the things that we have faced during the strategy implementation that we faced on our feet was that we were faced with way too many initiatives. Buying a forklift was an initiative. Building a factory was an initiative. Everything was an initiative. If you want your budget to be approved, just call it an initiative. So we did 2 things. First, we had to do an awful lot of education to people. And what does an initiative mean? An initiative that has to actually close a value gap. I am here currently, and I would like to go there. How am I going to close this gap? Initiative. And what are the components of the initiatives? So we had to say the starting time, ending time, allocated resources, owner, and clear deliverables. So that was one thing. We were faced with way too many initiatives. We had to be highly selective. Capital is a scarce resource, so we had to pick the initiatives with the highest impact. And that was an important pillar there, because you could have all the strategies you want, but without executing, doesn't mean really much.
Okay, can I just take one last question then? I'm afraid we'll need to move on, but there'll be a chance to pick up more questions in coffee breaks and so on.
As have been discussed earlier in the morning today, the planning and execution, let's say. What was your time plan, let's say, for planning and execution? How you manage both of them, and how much time each one takes, or it was you were working on both of them together? What was your plan for this? How you plan both?
If you're talking about time or amount of effort?
Especially time frame. How you manage your time?
Okay, first,
how much time all this journey takes?
the whole journey for us, it took 7 years, but 7 years with results. Cannot say that we spent 7 years only implementing the thing, but for 7 years we've been grabbing the fruits of that. But the first thing, you would have to detect your mission, vision, and values. You would have to start with that, and then you would have to do your macro and micro researches on pistol, SWAT, forces, and all that. And then you would have to identify your strategic destination. Once you identify that, and then you identify your milestones, you go ahead and execute with initiatives. So it is not, I mean, this is the process. This is the 1, 2, 3 process that we have actually learned from people who've beat us to it, and we have applied it. Time-wise, I would say that it depends. Actually, I cannot give an answer. I cannot say that 3 months, within 3 months, we developed this business unit strategy. It varies. And one business unit, it took us 2 years, but we're seeing the rewards from it. But one important thing, I think,